Father Boquet, thank you so much for being here with us today on Voice of the Vatican. We're delighted to have you.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. Father, would you tell us about your work with Human Life International, exactly what you do and what the organization is?
Sure. Well, the Human Life International was founded as an educational apostolate, and its basic strategy really is to open the hearts and minds of people around the world with our seminarians, priests, lay faithful on the life issues, the protection of life, the love of life, and the love of family as God has established. And so 1972, we were established as Human Life Center under Father Paul Marx's guidance, who was our founder. And then in 1981, he founded Human Life International. And so we became a large international community and network, working together with local pro-life leaders around the world to help support their work, to be a mentor in their work, and also at times to work with the local bishops, the local clergy, the local dioceses, in order to support the work of their family apostolate. So it really is an amazing work with right now about 90 to 100 affiliates around the world. We have an office here in the city of Rome, where we collaborate with curial officials and many of the Vatican offices, again, trying to be part of the conversation in support of life and family.
Oh. And what is it that you do with the organization, Father?
The main part of my responsibility as president of Human Life International really is to support the work. And in a way, like we're doing today, to be the face of the organization, to be that front man, if you will, that's meeting with the bishops, meeting with various officials, like, for example, legislators, or even with donors, trying to promote the work, help people understand what the work is, and then also being there to support our affiliates and our international directors, to be at their side when the work that they're doing, because we have about 7 international directors, and each one of those oversee a particular region of the world. So in Africa is the most unique because it has 2, and so it's divided into French and to English speaking. But we have one in Latin America, we have one in the Asia-Oceanic community, and Johannes Bucher, who is in Europe, along with Dr. Joseph Meany, who is out of Paris. So these wonderful men and women truly are the hub, and then they work with the regional directors or affiliates in the local regions. So, for example, one in Kenya, or one in Nigeria, or down in Latin America, many others that we work with. The international director is the point person. So then I come in to support them in their work and to participate in the programs, to give presentations, or to even meet again with some of the local leaders, to do strategy, goal setting, objective setting. So it really is an exciting work. It's now 5 years, nearly 60 countries. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Father, you mentioned that HLI is involved in legislation as well. What is happening on that front?
Well, by legislation, we're not a political organization. We were never established as one, as I mentioned, as an educational apostolate. But give you an example, I was in Slovakia recently, and I had an opportunity to meet with the local head of the Congress. Now, he was the outgoing vice president. They had been as a Christian coalition, had been in that work for nearly 27 years, if I remember the number correctly. But it was a chance to sit down with a leader inside such an important work and to say, what can we do to help? What do you think we could be doing to support you in your work as a legislator? And so it was a chance just to listen, what programs, what educational programs could be available. And then we take that information and we sit down with the local leaders. So the local lay leaders or clerical leaders, even the local bishop at times, sit down and say, listen, I had a conversation with. And then you begin to say, this is what they're looking for. So it's a way of helping, the local community. So never coming in and taking over work. That's never been our work. It's really a support. It's to come in and be a fellow sojourner in this work, and where we can lead with the education and the mentoring and the ongoing formation. This is what's crucial. So in this particular case, the legislator said, I wish I'd have met you, before. He says, because maybe we could have accomplished a little more together. But he also then introduced me to the person that's going to be coming in. And so there was a relationship building. So, but it's amazing because, as from a young man from Louisiana, thinking as a diocesan priest that I would never really leave the diocese, that I would spend my life, exhaust my life, working among the people that I was raised among in South Louisiana. But the Lord has called me to be a missionary, and in a sense, at least at this moment, and to be sitting across the table from very powerful people in their own right, in their own countries. You know, in the Philippines, I offered Mass for the House of Congress. I'm sitting across people I've only seen on news broadcast or newspapers, and now I'm sitting down with them talking strategies, objectives. How can we change the culture? How can we protect natural marriage? What can we do to protect human life? What can we do to support life within the community? And it's sometimes you got to pinch yourself and say, I can't believe I'm doing this. But God is amazing, truly amazing, in how He opens doors for us.
Now, Father, you mentioned that you're a diocesan priest from New Orleans. Now, is it only Catholic pro-life organizations that HLI works with?
No, we're very much, it's the dominant work, but yet we're very much open into collaborating with anyone who is open to the same principles, the same things that we believe in, the dignity of life, the protection of life. And of course, the big challenge always is the contraceptive issue, you know, and that's always a challenge because that's usually the big elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, but HLI does. And one of the only organizations that really does bring this up in all of its work. And so sometimes that can be a little bone of contention when you're working with non-Catholic communities or evangelical communities or non-Christian communities. They don't understand it. So that's sometimes the education begins with your collaborators. And once that door opens that they understand, and I'm actually seeing that more today, that people who at one time were not necessarily open, all of a sudden they're beginning to open their eyes and realize this really is the bottom of the issue, that upon which abortion flows. So now the conversations are changing. So now you're working with people that who are, you know, non-Catholic, but yet share the same beliefs and the same desire. So we definitely recognize that, and sometimes in the UN, a lot of times our work are with people that most people would not think. So some of our allies are people from non-Catholic communities, non-Christian communities, but yet they understand the natural law. They understand that life must be protected.
Father, are there any grassroots initiatives that are happening that you think that we should know about?
Well, I think the main thing for our audience is to know that there's lots of good things happening. And, you know, we see a lot of bad, you know, in the world. We see the news every day for those that keep up with the news. And sometimes it can be overwhelming and sometimes maybe even cause a person to feel some despair. You know, oh, can we ever change the situation? You know, what we see around the world is a growing awareness. You know, and we're watching, for example, in Eastern Europe, that came out of such heinous history of communism and under Nazism. They're emerging from this darkness, and they're realizing that they don't change what's happening, their own culture, their own way of life, their own history is going to fall. And out of existence in some regards. So they're starting to protect life. In Belarus, for example, I noticed, you know, great pro-life activity, and I share this with the audience that, you know, nowhere else in the world have I ever seen a public transit bus pro-life. The entire bus is covered in pro-life propaganda. Inside the bus are pamphlets all on life and family. I have never seen that anywhere else in the world. And this is a country that, if you look at its history, has suffered greatly, and yet it's emerging and promoting family and promoting life. We see it in Slovenia, we see it obviously in Poland and Ukraine. So these are examples of what we're seeing in many parts of the world. And of course, like I said, Eastern Europe's a little different in its history, but then you travel into Africa where they love life, where they love the family, and you're watching such zeal among our African brothers and sisters. I mean, just a desire to protect the culture of life. Latin America, same thing. You know, but I think what our audience needs to realize is that the threat is still there, and that there is a real threat. And for our audience who really are very spiritual people to know that this is a spiritual battle. That's the very thing we have to realize, and our prayer is very important, making our sacrifices in our prayer, doing acts of penance, you know, reparation are so important in this work because, you know, no matter how much work you and I can do physically, it still won't ever overcome this great wave. It really is the Lord and only the Lord, and when we're open to Him and through prayer and through doing His will, then greater things can happen. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing so many more people get involved. Marches around the world are growing. The numbers of people getting involved are growing. And so there's great signs of hope. Young people who are becoming more aware and they're becoming aware through education, through programs just like this, and through media, Catholic media programs that are educating them, forming them, and it's just wonderful. So it's great signs of hope in our world.
Well, Father, thank you so much for sharing these signs of hope with us. And please count on the prayers of the viewers of Voice of the Vatican to join the work of HLI.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And thank you for your prayers. And thank you for this opportunity to be with you and your audience.
May God bless you, Father Boquet.
Thank you very much. God bless.